You can sign it. Okay.
Be advised that proper notice has been given by the Township Council in accordance with the Sunshine Law in the following manner. Notice advised or advertised in the Burlington County Times and Camden Courier Post on July 16, 2018, and posted on the Burlington Bulletin Board the same day. Ms. Parejo? Here. Mr. Burrell?
Here.
Mrs. Colodi?
Here.
Mr. O'Connell?
Here.
Mr. Katzenberg?
Here. So we have a few items on the action meeting. First is minutes for approval. It's the approval of minutes for October 9th, 2018, the closed session meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Parejo?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Colodi?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
And Mr. Katzenberg?
Aye. Next is the approval of the minutes for the October 23rd action and work session meetings.
So moved. Second.
Ms. Parejo?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Colodi?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Katzenberg?
Aye. Next, we have the need for a public hearing for the Community Development Block Grant Funding application. Help me, Mike, with that, or Jeff. Do we need to just wait for Jim? All right, so we're going to move this down on the agenda, but do we have to do it in an action session? I mean, we're in the action part of the meeting. Now, do we have to, if we postpone that?
It's fine, it's not actually, as long as you're not, what's his name in the meeting, adjourning the meeting. So
As long as we do it in public session, it's okay.
Okay, very good. So next we have a resolution 2018-226. This is a resolution authorizing the tax collector to create sewer accounts and 2018 billing for various residential properties. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Parejo?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Colodi?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Katzenberg?
Aye. Next, we have resolution 2018-227. This is a resolution supporting the Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over 2018 year-end holiday crackdown. A motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Ms. Parejo?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Colodi?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Katzenberg?
Aye. Next, we have resolution 2018-228. This is a resolution granting preliminary sewer connection and authorizing execution of the NJDEP TWA application for Delran Land Investments LLC. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Parejo?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Colodi?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Katzenberg?
Aye. Next, we have resolution 2018-229. This is a resolution authorizing executive session to discuss the following, which would be contract negotiations with the emergency squad.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Parejo?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Colodi?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Katzenberg?
Next, I'd like to walk on resolution 2018-230. And this is a resolution authorizing an amendment to resolution 2018-225. That's the award of the non-fair and open contract for the grind system. The reason for this resolution is there was a typo in the resolution and need to be corrected by an amendment. So I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Parejo?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Colodi?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Katzenberg?
Aye. Okay, so we're going to go back to our public hearing. So I'm going to ask for a motion to go into public for the 2019 Community Development Block Grant Funding application.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so we're in public hearing. I'm going to ask Jim if he can just give us the an overview of the reason for the public hearing.
Well, yeah, we talked about this at the last meeting. We have a public hearing tonight to solicit potential projects for the Community Development Block Grant application, which is due next week. But unfortunately, over the last couple weeks, communicating with Community Development Department at Burlington County, potential projects that we were successful with, pretty much the same exact projects we've done in town over the last 10 years are now considered no longer eligible. The problem is community development block grants the money has to be applied to you can do capital improvements to your infrastructure in low and moderate income census districts. You have one, and that is generally the Hunters Glen area. Alternatively, you typically were allowed to, if you targeted a low and moderate income group, then you didn't necessarily have to be in that census district as long as you were targeting that group. And when I say that group, I mean like seniors and/or people with disabilities are considered low, generally, or a high percentage of low and moderate income. So in the past, we were successful with doing the automatic doors in the building here because it's an improvement that eliminates an architectural barrier that helps that, that high percentage of low and moderate income people. Or handicap ramps. We were successful in replacing handicap ramps, or installing handicap ramps where currently none existed, in order to eliminate that architectural barrier that served that people with disabilities. So there's the woman or the person that was running the department has retired, and there's someone else that took over the reins. And her interpretation of the regs, I gave her a couple sample projects for some things we can do in town, and she wrote back that she did not find them to be eligible. So we really don't have much we can go on at this point as far as a project.
How about developments that may be partial low to mods? Are those areas would they wouldn't?
It's gotta be in a census.
Yeah, you would, yeah. I mean, there's nothing new that was developed since 2010.
No, I get you.
So, and the 2010 census didn't pick it up, unless,
Okay.
it was for some reason, 1 year, it switched over to the Riverside Park section of town, so we were able to do Roland.
Right.
We were able just to repave the road using that money. I believe we were able to do Stewart Outfall too.
Yeah, they did.
But then they didn't do a new census, but for some reason the percentage changed. I guess they did some sort of inventory, and it came back and it switched back to Hunters Glen. That's where we were able to do Pheasant Road, because that's a public road over there, and Manor Drive.
But even, let's say I know we have low to mods in like Summerhill. If we have low to mods in those developments, can something apply in those type of areas since there's a percentage of low to mods in those developments?
I believe it has to reflect on the map that she gives us. I don't know how she determines the low and moderate percentage is in the entire census district, but just because there's one development that has it, it has to meet the percentage of district-wide.
Can we find out what that percentage is? I mean.
Yeah, we know the numbers,
Okay.
yeah. And, we have the map that came with it, and then every district, group, and lot, or whatever, and percentages in either one, and there's a minimum number.
We went through, I read the email, we went through this a number of years ago when none of the areas fell, because Hunters Glen is all private property, so we can't do any public improvements there. But, and what we tried to do, this was one of the suggestions, was to go and do a census to prove an area was, had a significant number of people who fell into that, those economic areas. And it's a chore, number one, and number two, every time we did it, it didn't work out. They're pretty accurate. When they give you a census tract, if you're not doing something in that census tract, chances are you're not going to get a project, other than we were always getting the handicap ramps, and that was kind of the way to go.
Yeah, one of
Do we
the.
have handicap ramps everywhere we need them in the
Well,
areas that would fit?
we really don't, we ran out of places where there's sidewalk that goes around a corner, where the sidewalk like abuts the curb, and there's actually no ramp at all, and it's just like a 6-inch curb reveal still. What we have a lot of are curb ramps all over the place that don't conform to any sort of current standard. Like, there's a ramp that's almost like 1-to-1 up, and then the slopes now, as of 2010 to 88 regs change, and you have to have, there's a max slope that's much lower. So that's why I see when we repave the roads now, we're redoing all the ramps, because you gotta, when you touch it with a repaved property, you gotta redo the ramps to conform to current standards. So what we have all over town are ramps that don't conform, and it's hard, they don't look at that as, they look at it as a curb ramp, and it's not an architectural barrier, even though it should technically be one, because it doesn't meet the standard. whether it's a curb reveal or a slope that's too steep for somebody in a wheelchair to navigate, why is that any different? So she's not looking at that as an eligible project, just to replace that ramp and be conforming. We also have places where there's no curb ramp, there's no sidewalk to it, but there's sidewalk, say, one lot up. So you have a sidewalk that goes to nowhere and a sidewalk that goes to nowhere, both heading towards the intersection. And that's what we kind of did. The last project we did was, what's that tree, on Creek Road, right by the middle school. Spruce. At Spruce to Creek, we brought sidewalk from Bridgeboro Road up to Spruce and then connected it to the sidewalk in front of the middle school. That's the middle school, right? Yeah.
Intermediate.
Intermediate, yeah. I'm from North Jersey, it's middle.
Yeah. Same.
Where we intersected it with the Spruce and we put handicap ramps in there and we were able to get the intersection done and it qualified. But so I gave her 2 examples of those, just in pictures, like these are ramps that we need to replace, or this is where we want to extend sidewalk and put in ramps. Because these intersections we want to put in ramps, there's ramps at other corners.
Yeah.
So that's also non-conforming. Once you have a ramp at one corner, you have to have another ramp at the other, just so if somebody enters the road, they have the ability to get off the road on the other side.
How much would we be spending to have you submit an application to try to appeal kind of, or?
Yeah, so then ask, can
The
you,
applications are not complicated, usually it takes us about 1 or 2 days
I
to
mean,
put
it
all
might be
forms in.
worthwhile.
Person,
I forget the name, I don't know.
let me know.
It's not just hard, I mean, the rules are very, they're
I mean,
very
I would be
complicated.
curious who the new person
But
is.
the person that was in there before wasn't real flexible, and
Right.
she approved it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the interesting part.
So, so what you're telling us is that the 2, or the what we just talked about and the one.
I mean,
pictures that you
we're here
included-
now, so what I would recommend is, I would recommend adopting a resolution authorizing the execution of a CDBG application for, was there a draft resolution? Doing a resolution authorizing the application of miscellaneous handicap or ADA ramp improvement projects. And if sometime between now and the application is due, we can convince her that it's eligible, we have the resolution ready.
can you go back to her again?
Yeah.
You don't sound very optimistic. So,
I don't think it would hurt, only because.
I think we should
have-
do the resolution,
yeah,
because if for some reason we can
We
convince
have
her.
nothing else in the census tract, so it's our only shot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, we're here now, might as well just do the resolution, that doesn't cost you anything.
231.
so we would need to walk something on, and we have to do it by title. Is that what we're doing? That would be a question for Eric.
Yes.
Anytime no one says anything, it's you.
No problem.
Um,
You want to read the title?
Yeah.
You want to try?
It's just, well, I mean, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, so it'd be a resolution authorizing the township engineer to file a CDBG application for various handicap ramps.
Various curb ramp improvements. At miscellaneous locations.
You know?
No, it's fine.
Any specific day?
Today.
It's the all-inclusive engineering approach.
Right.
Let's get it all in there. So I need a motion to approve Resolution 2018-231. This is a motion authorizing the township engineer to make a CDBG grant application for various curb ramp improvements at miscellaneous locations.
So moved.
And I'll second.
Ms. Pareja?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Palodi?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Patrick?
Aye. Okay, now, actually, we need a motion to come out of the public hearing.
So
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're back in our regular meeting. We didn't need to do that before we did the resolution, did we? Good. Okay, next we have conversation about the 2019 reorganization meeting and appointments of various residents to serve on the boards. First, the reorganization meeting, we typically have it as soon as possible after January 1st. And I think, just kind of with the impromptu conversations, can we do that on January 2nd? That'd be Wednesday, January 2nd. Anybody have conflict that day?
No.
Which would be better for us, 6:30 or 7 o'clock? Anybody have a, you want to do 7 again, or, I mean, it's just, this would just be reorg. There'd be no real meeting. We typically don't have a meeting. And the work session would be, so what would we have? Would we have that as the public meeting as well, Jeff? Is that normally what we do?
We've done that in the past.
We've done that, where we have the reorg and then a public meeting, just to, just to clean up anything that we need to do in public. And then the work session would be the 8th and the 22nd of January. So, everybody good with the 2nd?
And you said 7, Gary?
I guess 7, yeah, it makes sense, keep them all the same. And then we have a number of appointments that are up from various boards. And Jeff, do you have who, if there's any that, I mean, so that we have zoning board, let's start with the zoning board, because that's how I have them in the agenda. Those that are up are Randy Kinkus, Tom Lyon, Voltaire Gonzaga, and I know that Randy is still interested in serving, Tom is still interested in serving. I don't think Voltaire has been not attending unless they were desperate for a quorum. So it seems like he's not interested as much. So this is council's appointment. So I'm going to suggest that we reappoint Randy and reappoint Tom. I don't know if anybody has some suggestions we can talk about. Someone else that might want to serve. I know there's some people that are in the DBA that have expressed an interest. I can research some of them. The Business Association. Because we would have 2 open alternate spots, and I know often for the zoning board they need to have those spots filled. So, I mean, I'll revisit Voltaire, but anybody has any other suggestions? We just need to put this together before the reorg meeting, and we will vote on those appointments that day. As far as the folks that are on planning, these are all Ken's appointments except council's liaison, and that has been me, and I would like to continue to serve if that's the council's pleasure. And Ken would need to, I would assume, replace Patty.
Yeah, I'll address all of them.
Okay. You want to do that now?
No, hold on. I still haven't made my decisions on everything yet.
Okay. But just so that council's aware, Joe Russell, who is the Class 2, that's the employee, he is up at the end of the year. Henry Singer is up. He's a Class 4, as is Paul Cathell, who is the vice chair and is acting chair right now, because Cindy Rubinsky's not sure if she's going to permanently take a job that's out of state. And Pat Pomerantz, who was appointed in October, November, her term was finishing the alternate 2 spot for that was up at the end of 2018. So, Ken, you'll just let us know what's on your mind.
Yep.
Okay. And then we have the RAC, and there's actually 4 spots. 2 are Ken's and 2 are ours. Tyler is on the RAC. I'm assuming, Tyler, you'd like to continue to serve?
Sure.
Mary Parento is on the RAC, and I'm assuming that she would like to continue to serve. And there's 2 vacancies that if we have some suggestions. Ken has a Mary spot and a vacancy, and we have a vacancy open. So it's for the RAC. It's a tough spot because it's typically a lot of work and not a lot of notoriety, but they do great work, and they continue to serve the town well.
Yeah, the main thing is if we do select people on the RAC, let's just make sure that they really want to participate. I know one of the persons that was being suggested, at least for my spot, is Mrs. Patty. Would you want to still be on the RAC?
I'm giving it some thought, yeah.
Okay.
Joe had spoken to me about it, yeah. Yeah, I like activities. You do, like running activities, fundraising.
Like I said, though, it's very critical to get people that really want to do stuff. Because some of them sometimes come and they just, don't want to get involved. So we want to make sure that they participate and they know that.
Okay. And finally, on the green team, we have several folks that are 2 terms that are up, and that's George Zitzler and Albert Karp. They appear to be council's appointments. Unless they don't wish to continue to serve, I would suggest we reappoint them. And then we have a vacancy, and Ken has a vacancy.
On there?
Looks like it.
It's not easy to find that.
This is for the green team. Those are 3-year terms. The others are dependent on which
Jimmy's
spot
a
of
really
the
big
I'm not
That's what
very
you
green.
Doesn't require a green thumb, it just requires.
Green is not money.
So we'll have, if there's anyone has suggestions, we'll add them to the agenda. And, sorry?
More on that?
On the what?
Green team?
Green team, we need, well, there's 2 that could be reappointed,
I got you.
and 2 that are vacant. The 2 that are reappointed are George and Albert, and then we have a vacancy that is council appointment, a vacancy that's your appointment.
You know who is very interested in the environment and permaculture and all that? Remember Sylvia, the chicken lady?
Mhm.
Her son is, he's a brilliant young man. Truly.
Right.
And they started a foundation now for, advancing, sustainability. And I don't know whether, his name is Michael, I don't know whether he would be interested. He's just, he would bring like a depth of knowledge to the program. I just don't know if he's spread too thin, because he's started this new foundation. He's, but he's a very knowledgeable young man. He might be a good.
All right, well, we can reach out to him, see if he's interested to do that.
I think he was involved for a while.
On the green team?
Yeah, I don't know his capacity,
Oh, okay.
so I don't know if he didn't like it.
Oh, okay.
We
Would
should
you want me
find
to
out.
call him? Do you want me to call Michael? Or,
Why not?
I think
Okay.
Deb, but we should probably reach out to Deb Hammett and see what,
Who she-
yeah, who she would recommend, and she may
Okay.
have some people.
Or even Kersey, just Kersey.
Yeah, yeah,
One of them, yeah.
if they have any recommendations.
That sounds good. Let's just try to
That's
get them.
considered maybe.
Yeah. So let's try to get that into Jamie as soon as you can, if you talk to folks. Okay? All right, next is the Oh, our favorite topic of discussion, and that is, of course, is the JIP and MEL and EPL and POL. There was a song about that, it wasn't very popular though. Jeff, these are the quarterly snapshots.
Yes, and nothing's changed, so I'll just fly through them. The JIF,
Wait, let me get to that part of my agenda so I don't miss anything.
loss ratio, we're at 82% for the last 6 years. They used the 6 years, previous 6 years in determining your assessment. We're at 82%, but the last 3 years have been 28%, 3%, and 7% on claims. So this year's not looking as good because we had one significant workers' comp injury, but overall, one of the bad years will come out in the next 2 years. There were 3 bad years. So that should improve significantly over time, and we're at about 80% of claims against premiums. Second one is EPL, employment practices liability and public officials liability. And there are zeros across the board for the last 6 years, so we don't have any issues there. Haven't had any issues there. Hopefully we don't have any issues there going forward. And finally, the MEL loss ratio is at 30.6%, and it's basically from 1 year, 2013, we had one significant claim. The last 4 years have been zeros, so in the next 2 years, that number will come off and will go even lower. And we already get a pretty good reduction from the MEL because our claims history is so good. So the only thing that really needs to be worked on is the JIP claims, and it's mostly workers' compensation, and the last 3 years have been really good, so everything's trending in the right direction. That's all I have.
How do we compare to other towns? Are we very good?
The 80 is, the other two are real good. The EPL and the POL are excellent, and the MEL is, can't beat it. It's the lowest one in the JIF. I mean, there are probably a couple others. The 26 towns, I'd say 80 on the claims is probably not in the higher end of the 50%. We're not doing as well. But once 6 years ago, was it 13 comes off, we should be right there. We should be in the middle of the pack.
Okay.
And if the last 3, if we had years like we had the last 3 years, we'd be at the top of the pack. There's a couple towns that don't have claims because they barely have any employees. I mean, the Schmungs of the world, you know, they have office employees. They don't have police officers. They don't have public works or significant public works or sewer workers, so they don't really get that many claims. And there's a couple towns like that, Bass River and some of those. So there's some that have zeros in that area as well. But it's trending in the right direction.
Great. Okay. Well, it's that time of year that we start talking about next year's road program. We have a number in the top tier. Jim, it's good you're here. Do you want to talk a little bit about what we've learned about these?
Well, so I think it was in your packet, the updated list. We created this last year to kind of organize, you know, the number of streets that we're targeting and need, you know, corrective action, grouping them in such a way that, you know, the dollar figure works out to a reasonable amount. Again, it's going to really be up to how much the council wants to spend on the roads, and then, you know, we'll, you know, move around, you know, which roads, depending on how much they cost, are to fit within that budget. But as of this is what we created last year, and so I just basically moved everything up. And you know, last year we focused on, well, we did what did we do? Lichtenthal, Antietam, and Winmore.
They look very nice.
Yeah, they look very nice. And we did Hartford Road. We always had, and then slated for this year was Diane and Patricia, and then River Drive and Norman Avenue. Now, one thing, there was a question mark on River Drive because the county is planning the trail improvements. The nature, what's the name of it? Amico Islands, all trail that starts there and goes all the way through Delran along River Drive, and then through Cinnamon to Riverside, and then all the way out along the Rancocas Creek. So, with that project though, they are going to be doing improvements down by the treatment plant, including potentially resurfacing a portion of River Drive from Amico Island up to about Alden. And there's also some concrete work that needs to get done. It's really gonna be a coordination effort between the county and the town as far as who does what in order to make, what we need to do with resurfacing the entire road and what needs to happen with, their project to make it all work. They are slated to go out to bid sometime in the early spring. That's, I was told by the project manager for the county. So it would be time probably to piggyback on their project to do it all as one. So when it's, so it's a complete finished road when it's done. The number we have in here is for the full length. It doesn't deduct potential
Right.
county improvements.
Well, I can tell you that I've heard enough on the phone from Virginia that these need to be, that River and Norman are obviously, she's been lobbying pretty heavily with me to make sure that they're included. So how does their project impact the timing on our road program?
It really doesn't, other than like if we go first, we'll do certain things. If they go first, they'll do certain things. And we'll have to coordinate it together. So it's hard to tell because we're kind of like neck and neck right now.
Right. So do we have to budget for, how does this work? Do we budget for a percentage of the road, the full road, and then?
I'm telling you to budget this number, and what we actually spend will be less than that.
Okay,
We
so
can
that
always
was the
apply that to somewhere
325.
else.
Yeah, well, I mean, my recommendation too is, I mean, again, you guys have to figure out what, we run this every year, you gotta figure out how much you wanna spend. And from there, we tailor the road program around that. We target these roads 1 through 4, and then if, how much you wanna spend, there's more money left over, we'll throw in a 5th road as like an addition or a deletion item. Or if, how much you wanna spend is less than these 4 roads that we have pegged here, we'll target one of these roads as an additional deletion item.
Right.
So depending on.
We're not making a decision,
We're just
thinking about it.
starting to
Yeah,
talk about it.
yeah.
So, has the conversation started with you and the county with regard to River and the coordination?
Yeah, we've been in constant contact. They're actually going out to bid right now for construction management on the project.
Okay, and let me ask you and I'm having a senior moment as to exactly the name of the road, but there was a road that was tied into the PSE&G project.
Brown
Delcrest.
Street.
Delcrest?
No, not Brown
It was
Street.
in
It was on-
Delcrest
It was in
Baylor.
Delcrest, but where,
Baylor.
Baylor.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I was having.
Yeah, so for 2020, we
Is
had.
that 2020?
Yeah, well, 2020, we left a TBD. So 2020, next year, we had Front Street, Brown Street from, different segments, not the full lengths, but Front Street from Leon to Brown, Brown Street from Front to Third, Pine Valley, Windmore to Haynes Mill, and then if you did Pine Valley, we asked you to do Drew Court and Randall Court, because those would be the only 2 courts not done in that whole section of town. And they're relatively cheap, relatively speaking, and we left it to be determined. And the to be determined slot, we left $275,000, which was just a little bit more than what we thought Baylor would cost. So we thought Baylor would fit in good there.
Is that Baylor repair gonna hold up?
Yes.
Until 2020?
Confident.
Okay, so,
Again, it's your option now. If you want to do Baylor now and take something off what we want to do, what we have for 2019, you can do that.
Well, I think Baylor right now, what's the condition with the way they did the repairs?
I don't think it's a concern. I haven't heard any complaints, and every time I drive by it, it looks firm and secure. So it's a very small trench, not far from the curb. And they did pretty good we were out there when they did the restoration, and it's firm and compact.
and they did the restoration and paved a slice of it? Or they're waiting to top coat it?
No, they're not, the PCG is doing nothing more to Baylor. They restored their trench that they dug out. They restored it, suitably, for what work they did.
Right.
Up to grade.
Oh, I
Just
see.
not overlay.
So they were gonna pave parts of the
They were gonna do
others.
half the road.
Right.
We restructured the deal with them that they did the full width on all the other roads that they touched, and then we
So
said
we
we'll
need
do
to do
Baylor.
Baylor. That's the next I mean, that's one that's on the list, and we just want to make sure that it doesn't slip through the cracks.
Yeah, I mean, when we made this deal with PCG, it was a few months ago, and we kind of were, and we had these roads for next year targeted, and then we had a slot open for 2020.
Right.
So if you wanted us to restructure that so that Baylor's absolutely next, we can do that. We also have a slot for 2020. Also, it also comes down to how much money do you want to spend?
Right.
Can I ask a question? Under the considerations, you have Wills Street here?
Yeah, Willis.
It's Will's.
Willis, sorry, that's right. I was actually gonna bring that up because
Yeah.
there was talk about that, and I know the residents have been asking for years. The one guy lives, the gentleman who lives at the end of the road, it's really not improved at that end. It's always just been, it's not, the road's not even paved at his end in front of his house. The road is starting to wear. It's not the worst road, but it's such a short segment of road that if you wanted to include it in 2019, it'd be a good filler.
Well, that's what I was gonna suggest. Dan, you walked your area.
Well, I meant it,
And none
yeah.
of these are addressing your ward at all.
No, I understand that, but
So-
you also did Lichtenthal, we did Hartford.
No, I
Road.
understand that.
So, I mean,
But,
no, I understand, but this, I met this gentleman, and the day I was there, I mean, you could see the problems. And apparently whatever happened, he expressed to me in 2011, we apparently did Wills, I wasn't on council, and they were supposed to do this piece, and then it didn't get done.
It was done from Hancoast the other
Yeah,
direction,
the
the
other
whole way.
direction.
Yeah, whether or not it was
And there
supposed
It
to be
wasn't,
done.
it wasn't in the list to get done. It was, we had that one half that we were doing. And then what happened is, he had wanted that other part done, but it wasn't in the original.
Is that right?
This
Because
was
he
a long
mentioned
time.
letters he got, but I
It
don't
was
know
like-
if he has them
I don't
anymore.
think-
But I told him I would bring it up when we discussed the
No,
road.
right, and we know.
That had to be, that was like early.
And there was another resident while I was there that expressed concern, and the day I was
Nobody
there, you could
expressed
see
any,
it.
nobody expressed any concern down by Janeway and then, when you walked?
Not to me.
Wow.
Janeway had a big
Yeah,
problem
no,
with
and
the
I know what you
DPW
mean.
patch.
There's a lot
Because
of,
there's no sidewalks, I mean, that stuff
And-
just,
yeah, and the curves are in.
yeah, there's no curbs, that's what I meant.
Mhm. And the people have been complaining down there for
Yeah,
10 years.
And the thing is, if you look at 2019, 2020, that kind of, I mean, you have Stewart left, which is, but Stewart's not that bad, it's the storm sewer bad there. That the Riverside and then Delcrest area is kind of, and then Tempe Chase area is pretty much done. And it's kind of like Ithaca Janeway, Juanita. Is that right, Juanita?
Juniata.
Juniata, every meeting I say
Yeah,
that.
it's,
Juniata, Ithaca,
It should be,
Janeway,
but-
Oneida, Echo, those all need attention. And then we gotta move into the Redstone Ridge and Sharrowvale and that whole, and Cooper. Cooper.
Are you still, you're still like blocking them together though, correct?
Well,
Trying to.
Try to as much as
no,
possible.
but we are and aren't, you know, it's always been separated, but, you know, these roads tend to fall apart in the same areas at the same time. Oh, and most importantly too is Conroe Road. So Jerry, I've been on the phone with Jerry. Jerry says, you know, Conroe Road's really
Yeah,
It's
deteriorating
really
bad.
good. Yeah, yeah.
The problem, well, it's not a problem, but Conroe Road, we put in for a municipal aid grant. So we are supposed to be we should be finding out soon, within the next 2-3 months. Typically, the grants come in anywhere from 200 to 300,000. That's not enough for the entire road. So you have to decide, do you want to put your own money in to cover the whole road, which would be about 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, or see if it can last another year, and then get another, then apply again for the next municipal aid, and then have 2 grants. Hopefully, will eat up 80% of the project cost. That's something we have to decide.
Or we could take the money that's remaining out of River Road, if we get the county.
It won't be enough.
Yeah, but it'll help towards it.
And what's the
It would
difference?
be,
But,
it
right, what
won't
would
be
the
enough.
difference be?
It's a couple,
Yeah, you're talking about
20,000
less than
or-
100,000.
so like 80, like,
Because I'm gonna tell you, Conroe is it's a main thoroughfare.
I-
That one
I-
I care about more than almost, I mean, that's a main thoroughfare.
I understand. I guess what I'm saying is, any savings we see on River Drive,
No, I get it.
because of the county, it's not gonna be anywhere near enough that you even
Make up
start
the
with
difference in
Conroe.
Conroe.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're gonna need at least 300,000 to do half of Conroe. You're not gonna really do anything less than that. It's kind of a waste of resources.
Yeah, and it's getting bad fast, so, I mean, I agree.
You could decide to do it in half and half, do half a Conroe now, half a Conroe next year, and offset that each half with,
One time,
with
it's
a
an
grant.
inconvenience to people if you do it half and half, because,
I understand.
right, and that's,
When-
people
when-
going
when
out to
3
church
months
and everything.
from the state?
They don't
Or
tell you when you're gonna find out. The grants were due on, I think, September. So it's
You
usually
find,
like
like,
3 or
when we-
4 months after they're submitted that you find out. It used to be a cycle where when the grants were offered, it was, and submitted, you found out right around election day, for some reason.
On the day
But-
before, maybe?
Yeah. Or the League of Municipalities, because they used to go out and go down, everybody thinks you'll ever get a grant, but that schedule has been distorted. Now it's no rhyme or reason when these things come out, and sometimes they come out 2 a year, sometimes they come out 1 a year, 6 months apart, 5 months apart. But because of the gas tax, rumor is that all from now on, the grants are supposed to be much higher. So historically, you would get around 200, so now we should be getting more, like 253. And I mean, if you score high, you'll get more money. Conroe is gonna score very high, because it's the condition of the road, you have the elementary school, you have the middle school, you have the residences, and you have the park.
Right.
Conroe was done the last time on a similar grant.
Yeah. Yeah, Haynesville Road, Hartford Road, and Conroe are the roads you go for the municipal aid for. Because they're higher order, arterial in nature, collector, and,
So you were around when Conroe was paid for last time?
You're gonna get a grant for
Wow.
And now,
Wow.
we're no longer in good shape.
We're gonna
Right.
get
Yeah.
ready for Hartford?
I mean, you're gonna get a grant for Conroe, I just don't know how much.
Anyway, we can like, they won't give you any indication if you nudge them around, at least
No.
when they're gonna announce it.
I mean,
Or
by the
it's
time,
just
I think
up
by
in
the
air.
time you decide to do these roads,
Well, no.
you'll know, but the question still comes in, do you want
We're gonna
to,
have to knock one of these off,
yeah, I mean.
We're not gonna have more money to add.
If you wanna do Conroe, the entire length of Conroe, then you gotta decide whether you wanna spend 400 now, 400 to 500,000 now, or wait another year and hopefully have another grant to chip away at that to maybe about 200,000 a year money. Does that make sense?
Got a lot of thinking to do.
I don't, and all
Is that-
Jim's trying to do tonight is get you guys starting to think about it, because
Well, I think it's
obviously,
good,
an ordinance would have to be done, you can't do ordinances in December, because
Yeah.
And in January, we'll start having a better idea of where we stand financially. You know, you've got a couple things that you bit off this year, we had to deal with this year that are gonna impact us next year, so we'll have a better idea where you stand.
Yeah, plus, and if there's anything else we're missing or you want us to look at, I need to know too, so I can get you
Right.
information.
I think we're good.
So, I've talked about it before, conversations about when we did some intersections in the past, there's one that stands out that's a block from my house, not that it's because it's near my house, but
You
because
see it hardly.
it's I see it walking the dogs, and I see it when the kids are running through the puddles at the bus stop, because that's the same intersection. And I hear it when the landscaping trucks go over this intersection. It's horrendous. It's getting dangerous. So I think we should take a look at Southview and Sharrow Vale. It's starting to chunk out the way some of the other roads have done. Maybe it can be one of our big patch jobs. If we have Southview and maybe that can be done when Southview's done, but it looks like Southview's a couple of years away, or Sharrow Vale's a couple of years away, whatever. But we need to look at that, because that's bad. I'll talk about another pothole in my report, but.
Yeah, if you want us to look at, and if like, instead of doing the entire road, doing something like just at the intersection like we've done in the past, we can do that. You just has to be represented in the ordinance and budgeted, you know.
I just
do
don't
whatever
want
we
to do an intersection and then have to, when we repave the road eventually, we're gonna lose that.
Yeah.
I don't want to repair the same section twice, but we need to at least get, I guess it's too late in the year to get the pothole team out there, but it's just bad. It's bad, it's getting worse, and it's just one of those things. So, all of these are, have you visited these roads, Jim, you and Jerry? recently, or will you do that for us for the next thing to get kind of a current status, this road's?
I haven't gone down every single road on this list, but I've definitely, in the one in 2019, 2020, I've been through there over the last couple of months.
Right.
Every time I'm in town, I tend to drive down.
Right. So that, I understand, I'm saying that, you know, in the top tier or the second tier, I'd just like to say, I wouldn't want for you to come back, you know, in the middle of the year and go, geez, by the way, you know, Front Street fell apart last winter, we didn't
Yeah.
realize it, or whatever.
And I don't want to represent this as like, this is the tier too, because like there's a reason why we have Front and Brown together. I mean,
Right.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
Front might not be as bad as Diane or Norman or something like that, but if you want to do streets connected, because that saves you.
Do you have the tier list though?
I didn't
I mean,
update it.
last year we had a tier list. Can we do that this year?
Yes.
This was just to gauge where we're at.
Sure, and again, we had talked about, and we all like the idea of doing clusters, because it would be one deployment, one mill, one overlay, and done. But we also all recognize that unfortunately these roads aren't cooperating and falling apart at the same time in the same place. If you could figure out how to get that to happen, that would probably save us some money.
We did talk about that last year too. The problem is, like, there was over like 10 years or so, we didn't cluster the streets, and everything was in a different, you know, section of town. And by doing that, you can't just go to cluster, because then there was roads
Right.
that you didn't do
Right.
that, you know, were probably, you know, warranted at the time. So you kind of,
So-
it's like a transition period. You're gonna need like 4 or 5 years where you
Yep.
start blocking it all off, and then just hit the whole section at once.
If,
Go ahead.
if we're looking at these four, let's say, besides Conover, if we were looking at these four, and forget Diane, 'cause it's not enough, if you were to say, I mean, have you seen these recently, and if, of these four? And my question is there one out of those three, from 2, 3, and 4, that may be in less of a need, because that's sort of the figure that we'd be looking at if we had to use Conroe, so I'd like to know that too. If we're looking at this 2019 as the picture, I'd like to know which one is the better of the three.
I'll have to,
Not-
I'll take a look
not
at it
now,
with Jerry. You know,
yeah.
Jerry has a lot to say. He's maintaining these things every day. But it's hard, you know.
I know it is.
They're so close together. It's
But also it
pick your
depends
favorite
on
child.
maybe the less use, or less use, I get you, I understand.
So,
Okay.
so the purpose of it being included in the agenda was to start the conversation. You know, we started, now it'll be something that as we ride around doing our holiday shopping, we will notice, we'll notice when the packages get bumped off the seat because we hit a bad stretch of road. So, unless anybody has further discussion on that, I'm gonna go around the table to our staff and professionals. Anything for us this evening?
Absolutely.
No pass along information from this vacation, Jamie?
No.
No? All right. And Jeff, you have anything for us at Open? No. Eric, anything?
No,
No. Jim, we did get your,
Yeah, nothing more. The
Update.
roof is finally done, including all punches work, so they're about to get into closing.
That's
Yeah,
fixed as well.
that's fixed. Jerry had an issue with that, it's fixed. So they're going through, they're closing out the permit tomorrow. So you should see the final close out at the next upcoming potential bill list.
okay, and all the other roads are.
Yeah, they're all done. We haven't closed them out yet. You know, there's paperwork, administrative stuff. The Hartford Road is DOT funded, so we have to go through. We have to
Oh,
get
that's
some,
good, it's good.
we have to get some court
Good
tests.
job.
In the road program, roads, there's some punch list work that we're pushing to finish up. Other than that,
I was walking down Winmore, and I don't remember, closer to Antietam, and in front of one house, it was cold, there was ponding, there was water.
okay.
It's the second house in from Antietam, like if you were coming down Antietam, you made a left.
Okay, I'll take a look. I might be on the punch list, but if not, I'll double
Okay,
check.
that's because I walked the dog that way, and it was just in front of that house.
Okay. Was it wet or frozen?
It was frozen.
Okay.
It was frozen right in front of their driveway. Yeah.
Along with that, I
Yeah.
drove by Conroe Park, is that the new equipment being installed in there?
Yeah, it's actually being installed. The only thing we're waiting on is the original purchase didn't include, I think I explained this at the last work session, that the barriers that go around it and the safe zones. So, but it is being installed.
Yeah, that was nice to see.
They did a nice job on the basketball court, Summerhill too. Looks very
Is
nice.
that
Check
right?
it out, yeah.
Sorry. Is that Jim?
Yes.
Okay. You don't have anything from the fire department to do
No.
this evening? We're gonna talk about EMS in closed session, so.
I do have a question on EMS.
Well, we're not ready for that. Well,
I don't think it's, you can
we're
just say.
we're not done with our
Oh,
reports
I'm
yet,
sorry.
but, so we're gonna do that. Do you have to go to a meeting?
No.
Oh, okay. Can you hang with us till we get through these reports? It could be quick. Dan, you have anything for us tonight?
Well, the only thing is, it's a little bittersweet here today, because this is the last meeting we'll have with Patty. And in the 4 years that I've been here, I've become pretty good friends with her, and she's a great asset to the town, first as a school teacher, developing the program for the Vietnam War curriculum. I know she cares about the town greatly, and I'm gonna miss looking across the table and seeing her. So we wish you all the best, and we hope you come back and see us sometime.
I definitely will. Thank
That's
you,
all,
Dan.
Supervisor.
Todd?
No report this evening.
Virginia?
No report.
Miss Patty?
I will probably write you more than talk, because that's how I am, but it's a pleasure. So thank you all very much.
Awesome.
But no report.
So, the term bittersweet came up. We look forward to new beginnings. We're gonna miss you, certainly, and your perspective. I'm not even gonna mention, the sweet part of the bittersweet
Yeah, the
also
food.
is that, Mike, you bake?
That sports 3 job.
I could say no.
But Patty always had great input, and it was truly a pleasure, and we're gonna miss having your friendly face here, that's for darn sure. And the only part of the report that I want to talk about was again, I'm starting to get calls for the pothole on the private road that goes to Mancini. That pothole's been there for 2.5 years. It is not part of the property that is being maintained by Sports Paradise in their renovations. So it is, my understanding is that each chunk of that road is owned by, is responsibility of somebody different. But I think at some point we have to, it's to the size now where a cone is half buried in the pothole and sticking up. And they've had that cone there, as we've all heard me complain that my daughter goes to dance there, and my wife complains to me twice a week, going and coming every time. So I've actually had residents that are close by there call and say, that's really dangerous. They live in Tenby in the apartments and hear the cars take that hit. They can hear it. So we need to just kind of put them on notice or send somebody out to write them up or do something. And that's my only report. Ken, do you have any?
Yeah, I'm gonna follow up on that. I'm surprised you didn't mention Heritage again. Heritage, the same thing in the Heritage parking lot. It's also pretty messed up.
And that again.
Yeah.
It was out there
They're
earlier.
doing some work in there. They have a front end loader or something.
I see it, but I don't,
I was there going to the post office and they were doing something. What? I couldn't tell you.
that
Yeah.
parking lot,
They just put it
I
there.
couldn't tell
Yeah.
you.
that
It
parking
looked
lot
like they're
is
doing
totally-
They keep doing the same thing, unfortunately, is all they do is the pothole and then
Yeah,
it's gonna operate.
they gotta do it right.
So
It's a mess.
they did just go before zoning and took out the section that was, having a moment where they split out one portion that was Chili's to, help me with the word, somebody help me with the word. They took that off the bifurcated the lot, the
Segregated.
Lot subdivided?
subdivided, see that?
That was
Thank
the
you.
word I was
All
looking
right,
for.
you're in your keep to me. So they subdivided the Chili's lot, so that means that the patient first is one lot, what was the Chili's lot was another lot, and then the road, and then the back is the third lot now, so, and Chili's has, that the Chili's property is, at this point, they're planning to have a buffet-style restaurant. Because you just can't get enough of them on Route 130. That'll be 4 or 5 in about a 3-mile span, so eat up, everybody.
That's why we have so many gyms.
What's wrong with gyms?
I'd like a motion to go into public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're in public. Now, Jim.
Now I can ask you?
Sorry to make you a person of public, but
That's okay. Obviously, you can't say a lot, I don't think,
not yet.
not yet. I guess some of the problems that we're having is anticipating firing back up. And I'll start off by saying it's obviously there's nobody in this room that what's the problem, why we're where we're at, so.
Right. You're talking about the EMS, just
Yes.
for the record.
Obviously, though, you're at the end, so it's kind of like, nobody thought we'd be this long out of service. We did get our license back, so that's a good thing. I guess some of the questions would be is, even in preparation to go back into service, I don't know even if the ambulances, what kind of shape they're in at this point after sitting for so long. We haven't put them on the road for several reasons. A, one would be public relations. Two would be, I don't even know what the liability would be, God forbid they got in an accident. But at one point, we're going to have to start doing road tests and see where we are and what needs to get done to them. So I guess what everybody's problem is, not just the members of the squad, but the general public is there any kind of time thing where you're thinking about where we could get back in service?
So I'm going to give you the best non-answer I can give you.
I hear you.
Because the attorney is staring me down, it almost hurts. So, we're going to discuss this evening, so in an attempt to divert the "are we there yet" question, we'll know much better where we are at the end of this meeting.
Okay.
I would, just in regard to are the ambulances, will we be able to get them up and running in time? Regardless of what happens, we have to give the other squads a month's notice. So-
Absolutely.
So I think you'll have time to do that, assuming from the time that we get the go-ahead. I think I can say that we had some questions, and I believe they were answered for the most part. That's what we're going to talk about in closed session, and then when we come out of closed session, we'll either take action or not, and then I'm sure you will be the first to know, because you'll probably be sitting out in the parking lot waiting for us. I'm just guessing.
No, I'll be out front.
You'll be out front.
I mean, just anything really, because obviously, the general membership is like, your phone calls every day, like, well, where you at, who do you talk to, what's your opinion? And I think most of them get it. My concerns from a person who is probably towards their end of their career and just like to get this thing up and running and get it back to where it was. It would be good that we could get something out, even if you made some kind of a public announcement or something. Only because I have volunteers that are saying, listen, I gotta be honest with you, after 6 months, kind of like the free time. So I'm kind of like, I'm trying to,
You'll get them back in.
trying to keep people interested and not having it. And again, I'm not saying it's this board's fault, because you just got it. The state, my words, not the emergency squad, play with this, in my opinion, way too long. And now you're at the end of it, so, everybody's kind of chammering at you and not any fault of yours.
So I hear you. I have 3 children, so I understand the please let us know what, I get that.
Right.
As soon as we know, we're gonna have that meeting tonight, probably in an hour, we'll know.
And I mean, even the sheer fact that you're talking and trying to get the thing up and running is encouragement. As of right now, we've heard nothing.
Right, right.
So
So,
that's, the constant, we've heard nothing is tough.
Yeah.
Even anything that I can do to get my volunteers, I mean, per diem, I'm not worried about. You can get per diem people any day of the week.
right,
It's keeping the volunteers, and let's face it, what we've lost, it's gonna take us a couple of years and recruitment to get more volunteers to get this thing back to where it was. We were, without a doubt, the best squad in the county. I can say that because it's fact, not just brag. But we took a hell of a hit, and it's gonna take some time to get back to where we were. We will get back to where we were, but
sure. So, there were two other gentlemen that might have comments, and they are the only thing keeping us from talking about it.
I got it.
So,
So, like I say, I'll hang around. If you can tell me anything, great. If you can't, I understand
I
it.
don't know how long we'll be, but, you
Right.
know, somewhere between, 10 minutes and 10 hours, so.
Emergency services, all-nighters are normal.
So you'll be up, have a cup of coffee. Thanks. You don't have to
Is
leave.
it, oh, it's not private, it's not public, okay.
It will be, you're gonna have to leave once we go
Got you.
close. I'm just gonna go around the room and Councilman-elect Orlando.
Thank you. I'd like to mirror Mr. O'Connell's sentiments and thank you, Ms. Galoti, for your service. Being in your jurisdiction for these years, I want to thank you for all your hard work and all the efforts you've given to the citizens of this town. And I know I have big shoes to fill, and I will do my best.
I think you'll be great. Good luck to you. Good
Same
luck.
to you.
Thank you, Mike. Nothing? All right, so I'll ask for a motion to go into closed.
You gotta come out of the public.
I'm sorry, I need a motion to come out of public.
So moved.
So I got all jacked up, Jim got me
It's all right,
upset.
it's all right.
Motion to come out of public?
I said,
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now, motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are in closed. We'll take 2 minutes.
Like, food